going through, and how did you deal with it? The number is 0244 340 437. Talk to us. Send it through WhatsApp and Telegram. We'll share your stories right here on the Super Morning Show. Now, you're welcome back today to help us navigate this very, very thorny issue and understand how it works, how heartbreak affects us, and how we can all cope better with it, and perhaps even how we can break up better, to avoid some of these things. Today, to help us understand that and more, let's say good morning to our guest. Of course, Nimwizi is here. Inimwa Inimado is here with us. Inimwa, how are you doing?
Well, thank you, Kojo. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Good to see you.
Again?
Indeed. Very difficult to escape me these days.
I know, right? If it's not on TV, then it's on radio.
I know.
Yes.
I know. Now, with us is Mr. Paul Ankra,
Popularly known as
Kojo,
good morning.
Good morning to you. It's great to see you, by the way.
It's nice to see you as well.
Indeed.
You're looking good.
Oh, you're kind. You're looking great too. Now, today, we've also made sure that we have somebody who can educate us on, the science of this. And, to help us navigate the waters. I was asking whether there is a proper way to break up with someone. Well, today we're going to find out if that is the case, if there is a correct way to break up with someone, and also how to cope with heartbreak. A clinical counselor is here with us, Patrina Eduse, to help us come to grips with this. Patrina, how nice to see you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, so look, let's first of all hear some stories. Let's hear from people who have been through breakups and struggled through it.
I went to the lady's family and take the list of getting married to her. And we plan is that, okay, at the end of the year, let's say in January, we'll get married. First January, no, she called me and said she won't get married again. I couldn't know what to do. I was confused. I went to the house. My mom was talking to me. I couldn't talk to my mom. I just went into my room, locked myself. To the next day, when I came to the office, I was discussing to one of my friends, and he said, I should just let it be. But I see, almost 2 weeks, I couldn't be myself until I started to recover again.
What did you do to recover? How did you do it?
Trying to listen to music, play football around with my friends. That is all I did. I was so confused and everything. So I decided to myself that I don't want to get involved in any relationship again.
Okay, so I was with this girl, and when she completed tertiary, she was posted to a place, I don't want to mention the name, for her national service. And so one day I decided to visit her. I went there, and then the following day I had to come back to Accra. I left, but then on my way coming, it was like the voice of God. Something told me to go back to the house. And when I got there, gosh, what I saw was an eyesore. Another guy had come there and they were having fun.
They were having sex?
Yes. I don't want to go into the details, but that is what happened, and it was really terrible. It was a terrible feeling for me. How I came over it, I think time. After a period of time, the pain and everything starting wearing out. I think that's how I came over it.
He was a year before, and I think he had completed WASI. Yeah. So I was about to write to WASI the following year. Yeah. And it was in December on vacation. And he says he's traveling outside, like after WASI, he's going to study outside for his tertiary. So he didn't think that long distance would do well for us. So we should end it. So yeah, that was it. I cried small. But then I was going to write WASI the following year. So I think it took most of my attention from it because you had to study and all that. You had math and science and all those papers to write. So Yeah, I think that helped.
I was in a relationship with this lady and for some time, and she thought that, those days, Charlie, so she thought that she has found somebody better, she had to move on. So she suddenly abandoned me, and so she had to move on, and then, so shed some few tears, few regrets here and there, so I think they have to move on with your life because you cannot, cry over some spilt milk, so
But
you
in
have to move on.
the first few weeks when it happened, how was it like for you?
Very disappointing, heartbreaking. You felt like, what is that about you that the lady didn't want? What is that about you that this person rejected so much that she had to abandon?
Field. She's the CEO of MBS Care, which is an agency for mental health services. And at the moment, she's working actively to bring awareness to mental health through the use of social and electronic media. Wow, you do all. All right, now let's get to grips with this thing, okay? Now, we've heard people relay their stories of heartbreak. And we want to try and draw the connection between that and, mental health. But in essence, heartbreak is pretty much grief, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yes. Basically, heartbreak represents grief and loss, and I think anyone is going to talk about the stages people go through when they are experiencing that. But it's a sense of loss of something that you care about, loss of a relationship, loss of a friend, loss of shared memories, opportunities, future plans, and yeah.
Right. Wow. Now, anymore, this is one of the things you know quite a bit about.
Yes, Kojo. I think the most difficult part about heartbreak is studies have shown that the part of your brain that is activated when you're getting over an addiction to something like cocaine is the same part of your brain that is activated when you're getting over someone you love.
Wow.
So it's, and we've seen people who are going through withdrawal, who are trying to get off cocaine and all of that. And you see what they go through, even the physical manifestations. And so pain and heartbreak can manifest itself like that. I know people who have suffered anxiety attacks, people are throwing up, people are feeling sick, they have headaches, they're feeling lethargic. All of the pain manifests because the body cannot tell the difference between the pain that is perceptive, as in a heartbreak, and real physical pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is what we do to people when we break up with them.
This is what we do to people when we break up with them, even more so when we break up and it's ambiguous. There's a part of us that likes to to understand. And I think when you understand something, it's easier to deal with it and to accept it. But a lot of our breakups are very, very ambiguous. And so one of the best things you can do when you're breaking up with someone is really to let them know why, and be clear and be honest and concise. I've experienced one of my worst breakups has been when the story of why the breakup was happening kept on changing. You know, in this conversation is because of this, and the next conversation is because of this. And so I was left wondering exactly what is it that, you know, you're breaking up with me for. And so the part of my brain that needed to understand didn't. And I still don't. I mean, in that case, but you know, and some of the easiest breakups that I have experienced, or that I have been the one to have been, when the end was clear, it was defined, the reasons were given, and then it was much easier to process that pain.
Wow. And I get the point you're making about the ambiguity and how that can end up being a torture device.
It is,
on its own.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not sure. And then there are some breakups where it doesn't quite end. You know, they're like, okay, I think we should take a break.
I know. I think we should take a break. Oh, I think we need some space. Oh, I love you, but I can't be with you. You know, all of these endings are very open-ended, and that's the hard thing. I mean, they say women need closure, men not as much. But
I wonder
about that. But I mean, if you're dealing with a woman, it's important to give her closure. And so the open-ended statements don't help. Oh, I love you. Oh, let's see what will happen. Oh, you know, you all those things they're just very cruel.
Right.
You know, one of the very renowned relationship coaches that I listen to says that the easiest way to get over a breakup is to kill all hope. When you can accept that it is over, you're fine. Acceptance is everything.
Kill all hope.
Yeah.
Tip number 1. All right. Now, Petrina, before we get some education on this and how to actually do this, I'm so glad you're here with us, Uncle Paul, because you've recently experienced a breakup.
Sure.
Got divorced in December.
That's right.
Okay. So it's quite fresh. Just generally, tell me this process, you know, at this point, after a person breaks up, what are the things going through their minds?
Well, you see, I mean, one of the first things that goes through your mind is the whole question of, as Anima was saying, why is this happening? And it's very important that both parties get a clear understanding as to why you are where you are.
Right.
And it is very important that this is where communication becomes even more important. Because if you can't really articulate the reasons to each other as to why it's not working, then there's a whole barrage of doubt left in the back of your mind.
Right.
Was it this? Was it that? And that sometimes makes it very difficult for you to heal. So it's very important that you're very honest with each other, and especially the emotional intelligence that is required of both parties to handle such a situation is extremely important.
Right.
You have to be able to empathize with the way each other is feeling. If you can't do that, then you become extremely selfish and polarized from the discussion. And that then makes communication difficult, and sometimes can actually flare up emotions when you are trying to reach closure.
Yeah.
But the important thing is you have to take this one step at a time. Now, sometimes it's very difficult for you to do it on your own, and you may need the support of either family, close friends, or even sometimes your pastor to help you through the process. Now, that requires you to surrender in some ways, because you're going to have to be very open to these very important close people and let them understand how you feel. It's also important to understand, what do you want at that particular time? Do you want to stay in? Do you want out? What is the process that you want to go through?
Were those things clear for you?
They were clear for me. They were clear for me. I mean, at the beginning, there was a lot of ambiguity because communication sometimes doesn't flow because emotions are raw. Someone's in a different place in there, but you have to be very mature and just stay put and allow yourself to gain composure and try to rationalize as to why you are where you are. And like Enimwa said, sometimes you have to accept that this is not going to work for whatever reason. And that takes maturity, because sometimes you cling on to it. And so I've invested X amount of years, we have children, X, Y, Z, and therefore you don't want to let go. Sometimes holding on to that themselves can be destructive for you. You have to know when to release it and let it go. And above all, you have to learn how to forgive that person. Whoever the protagonists are in the whole situation, you have to learn to forgive each other. Otherwise, you can't move forward.
Now, it's only been a few months for you. Have you been able to go through all of this?
I've been through that.
Was it a surprise when it happened, or was it a long time coming?
Well, in fact, it's a very interesting question that you ask, because there are times when I ask myself, were the signs there and I didn't see it, or is this something that's just evolved? And you have to sometimes go through the whole process and ask yourself, well, maybe the signs were there. For me, I don't think there were some signs, but there were not signs that I think should have ended the way it is. But then again, you're also dealing with human beings who feel differently. And if you don't actually communicate properly to understand how he or she is feeling, you end up becoming polarized. You don't have a meeting of minds. And without meeting of minds, sometimes it's very difficult for you to heal. You have to have some meeting of minds, and there has to be mutual respect. That is extremely important.
Do you know, I was trying to do some research of my own before this conversation. I was trying to see whether there was perhaps a whole field of science that deals with, breakups and, how. I confess, I didn't find a lot. Is it an area into which people are researching? I mean, is there some scientific information out there, Petrina?
There is. It may not particularly say for breakups, but then emotional pain, there's research out there about that. One of the interesting things people go through during breakups is reliving the pain, reliving the transgressions, whether you're the one who did the breaking up or you were broken up with. There's an interesting phenomenon called rumination. And I don't know if you guys remember in GSS, they taught us about ruminants.
Yeah,
they
the
have
four chambers of the
stomach.
stomach.
Exactly. So it's like they chew, it goes to the rumen, and then they bring it back out. So rumination is a psychological concept where you relive, you keep bringing it from memory into the into consciousness. You keep reliving it like it happened just now. Now, the interesting thing is, would you believe me if I said that your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination? This is the reason why you can go into a movie and cry and laugh. Or you can watch soccer and then you get extremely animated, right? Certain things will not affect you. You should know, otherwise wouldn't affect you, or it's not real. Yet some way, somehow, it's able to elicit certain feelings as though they are. So the way rumination works is that if, for instance, we break up because, like the gentleman was sharing, he walked in and saw them having fun, and he keeps replaying that. Now his brain is not aware that he's not going through that. So the amount of pain he felt when he witnessed it is the same amount of pain he will feel when he's remembering it, when he's chewing over it, when he's ruminating. And rumination has a high correlation with people with depressive symptoms because they keep reliving it. Now, as you relive a painful experience, chemical processes are taking place in the body and in the brain. So release of stress hormones like cortisol associated with anger. And prolonged release of cortisol, too, is related to health issues like hypertension. So it's interesting how sometimes we look at physiological health and mental health as separate things, but they're so interrelated.
That's surprising. Now,
Anymore,
earlier we were alluding to certain stages that people go through when it comes to grief, which is essentially what you're experiencing when
you're
going
breakup, through. Right? So it's called the Kubler-Ross Model. And when she did this, she actually did it for people who. It's supposed to be on death and dying as opposed to a breakup, but you've realized that there's a correlation between that. So she says in her studies that there are 5 stages of grief. So denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Right.
And I think we kind of all go through when the relationship ends and you're like, no, it hasn't really ended. Maybe he just needs some time. Maybe she just needs some time. And then you get angry because you're like, this is not fair. Why would you do this to me? I've given you so much. And then you start to bargain, okay, maybe I'll change this. If I change this, will you this? Can we try and do this? And then that doesn't work. And then you just get flat out depressed. So that's when you're crying, you're eating all the ice cream, you're,
wearing your
not
baggy
wanting to
pants.
bath and,
Yeah.
and all of that. And then if you're lucky, Kojo, and I say this because I've seen so many people stay at the depression state. If you're lucky, you finally get to acceptance where you can say, okay, this has happened, this is done, I'm going to learn the lessons and I'm going to move on. And I think that acceptance is the most freeing part, is the beginning of healing, but it's also the most difficult because there's, the Bible says hope deferred makes the heart sick. But when you accept, what you're doing is you're killing hope. And so you're sick. It's a painful, I remember that for me in my last breakup, the acceptance stage, I would actually, when I think about it, I would throw up. Because the thought of just never having this person in my life anymore was just enough to make me feel sick. But I stuck with it because I knew that if I could get through this, I would. And then, you find that you're fine. I think there's one stage that she didn't talk about. And I feel like after acceptance is the fear. Because you've accepted and you've healed and you're like, I'm never going to let another human being do this to me again. And then you kind of have to work your way through that, to be able to give yourself on that level.
And again, that's a stage that some people get stuck at.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
and-
Yes.
Interestingly, after she came out with this model, they found out that sometimes people actually go through the stages not sequentially.
Yeah.
So someone can start out with acceptance. Okay, they don't want to be with me. That's fine. It is what it is. And then also time-wise, it could be 2 months, 3 months, 5 years.
Yeah.
Then 3 months later, I'm completely depressed. How could this happen? So the stages, as she was explaining, yes, some people go through it exactly that way. Other people go through it, it's jumbled.
Different
Just that
order.
you will experience these different things when you are.
But I think that the final stage, regardless of how they go through,
Acceptance.
will be acceptance.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some of the things that make breakups harder than they naturally would be anyway.
Yeah.
For example, the fact that people know. What role does that play? That fact that the world is aware that you two were together and it's now suddenly over. Did you feel that, did that have an impact on your process?
No, well, probably to some degree because I have so many friends. My partner at the time has so many friends. Some friends we shared, some we didn't. And
Who inherits the friends? That's
yes.
another one.
That's
Oh,
another
yeah.
one.
That's
Who
a
inherits the friends.
painful. That's a
And
painful part of
It is
of a
because
divorce,
sometimes
especially.
sometimes you make friends together as part of your union.
Yeah.
And when there's a breakup, the friends are put in a very difficult position as to, can I still be friends with him?
Yeah.
Can I still be friends with her? If I'm friends with him, will she get upset? These are some of the difficulties that you encounter. But coming back to your original question as to how you deal with the whole question of going through those processes and thinking about what people out there think. You have, in some ways, you have to be selfish for yourself. Number one, you can't make these life-defining decisions because of what people think. It was the biggest mistake you will ever make, because then you're going to feel guilty for the rest of your life.
Right.
You have to recognize that, look, this is something that affects me. It is my relationship. And yes, now it's over. So now I need to move on with my life. You need to have that emotional intelligence to recognize that you need to be in touch with your own emotions, how you feel, not how other people feel. Yes, they may care, they may be worried, they may be sad. But at the end of the day, you are living it. And you need to be mentally strong. You need to be emotionally strong to, first of all, like anyone said, to accept the fact that you did your best. And I have this philosophy. When you know you have done all you can to save it, and still it doesn't work, you have some inner peace. You really have some inner peace, and that helps you with your closure.
Indeed.
So, from my point of view, I went through that process. I talked to very close friends, talked to my pastor as well. It was very, very helpful. And I put the whole situation into context, right from the beginning when we met, right till to the end when we broke up. And we have a daughter together. So that also plays a part in your thinking processes. But like I said earlier on, the most important thing is to recognize the fact that you are two individuals. There needs to be a certain amount of respect, honest respect for the fact that one, first of all, you were together for a long time, or for a certain period of time. You have a daughter together, and that alone requires you to adopt a certain type of thinking. You can't adopt a mentality as some people do. This guy, I'm going to show him. This lady, I'm going to show him. When you go down that road, you've enslaved yourself.
Yeah.
You have enslaved yourself. Let it go. It's tough. Don't kid me. Don't get me wrong. It is tough. But you have to be able to let the process work.
Right.
You have to pray a lot and get some help. And then once that is done, you can move on very, very quickly. You can't forget, but you can move on.
Now, Nimwa, you got divorced 2 years ago, right?
Yes,
Coming
yeah.
up on 2 years very soon. Is your ex remarried or?
Not yet.
Okay, but he's
Not yet.
Has he been in relationship?
I have
since?
no idea. I have no idea. We're very amicable. We're very good friends when it comes to our children because we made a promise to each other that the children won't suffer. I come from a broken home, so I know what that's like. So everything else is great, but when it comes to the kids, we're a team, and it's easier that way. You know, then there's no mixing of things.
Because it brings to the fore another thing which, to my mind, makes breakups difficult, and that is observing the other party moving on.
Hey, do you know? Wait, no. I have a story. I'm telling. Wait, like you felt my hair. Like I think it was a month ago or something. I saw somebody that I had broken up with. I saw him with another woman, and as soon as I saw him with her, my stomach turned, and I had been drinking, Coke, and it came out of my stomach and filled my mouth.
Oh God!
And so I had to leave where I was, and I couldn't sleep that night. My eyes were open till the morning. I was in so much pain because I was looking at them, and I was like, you know, this the other thing about a breakup, especially when somebody breaks up with you, is you look at the next person that he's with, and you look at the person, and you're like, so for you, she's better than me. She is what I am not. She's giving you what I couldn't give you. And when you really love the person, when you really gave everything to that person, when you see them like that, it's such a huge blow. I felt so little. I was so unexpected because I didn't think it would hurt me that much, because in my head I was over him. You know, he's a horrible person who, you know, all of that. But yeah, that part really, oh my God, it was horrible. It was.
Do you know, since we're all being honest, my worst breakup, that was the toughest part of it. And it's not that I saw her with someone else, because by the time she started a new relationship, I was actually over it. But before I got over it, I kept imagining, you know, so who will be that next guy who will come along and actually make her happy? Who's going to succeed where I failed, you know? That kept me awake at night. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. I was a mess.
So you see how mental health affects our physiological
Oh,
health,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So this leads me to my next question. You know, I want to understand the science of it. This thing about heartbreak, is it is there an actual broken heart syndrome?
There's a surgical broken heart syndrome, and when there is actually, but it's not as a cause of heartbreak. But when you say broken heart syndrome, I'm sure the doctors will be thinking, you could be talking about a proper surgical process. But okay, sorry.
Well,
Patrina.
thanks for that correction. Yeah.
No, so when certain images have shown that when people are experiencing emotional pain, the parts of the brain that are activated are similar to the places that are activated when you're experiencing
Physical pain, yeah, like I
Right.
said.
And you know what? I'm going to make you hold that thought, and we'll continue that education right after these messages. Also, when we come back, please put the kids away, because I'm going to ask my panelists whether breakup sex helps or not. All of that after these.
At Afrodan, we believe that many of the problems people have with their health is as a result of the way they sit. In other words, your chair can kill you. Here's Dr. Marcus Mann of the Chiropractic and Wellness Center.
What you have to remember is that the spine is the lifeline to your body, and posture is the window to that spine. Now, posture is affected by your daily activities and habits like sitting. That's why at the Chiropractic and Wellness Centers, we recommend what I believe to be the best chairs available for preventing not only subluxations, but also other health problems that you may not be aware of. And that's Rabami and Mobilex chairs. Unfortunately, on a daily basis, I have to correct the effects of this poor sitting habit in our businessmen and businesswomen. Always remember, optimal spine equals optimum health.
So, for the sake of your health, buy Rabami or Mobilex chairs from Afrodan. We're on the first floor of the Swansea Shopping Arcade. Telephone 663-085.
Hey, Kwame, what's up here? My brother, my wife has been diagnosed with cancer. What? My brother is here with kidney disease too. Oh, yeah.
Do you know the World Health Organization estimates that over 16,000 new cases of cancers are diagnosed annually in Ghana, and kidney diseases account for 10% of all medical admissions to Kolebu?
But thanks to Glycocritical Illness Plan, GSIP, I have spent over 20,000 Ghana cedis on my younger brother's disease. Yeah. What is GSIP?
Glycocritical Illness Plan, GSIP, provides you with financial support when diagnosed with any critical illness or dread disease such as cancers, strokes, kidney failures. Speak to GlycoLife today on 0302-218-500 for your GSIP policy. It is definitely in our interest to survive. GlycoLife, we cushion you for life.
So everyone says I'm a Kosia filler, but it's not like I'm nosy or go out to find out the latest filler. It's just that I get 50 megabytes of data free after paying for only the first minute of every call. And so I just keep discovering stuff minute after minute. That's how come I was minding my business, scrolling through my timeline, and I found out Coco has a new baby. Oh, and last week, I learned Ken won the lottery. You see, Ken is my brother's friend. So hello, look who's about to roll with the rich and famous.
Enjoy even more value with MTN Free After One. You only pay for the first minute of your call on MTN Free After One, and the rest is free. Plus, you enjoy free 50 megabytes worth of data to browse your favorite sites. Compare where, compare there. So dial *315# to sign up. We day for you everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply.
I am Dr. Acacia. Acacia gives your workers the best customer service and treatment options when the need arises, keeping them healthier and more productive for your business. Acacia Health Insurance. We place value on those you value.
I love to see children grow healthy and strong. That's why I fully support exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. Breast milk alone has all the food and water that a baby needs to grow healthy and strong. It's pure and it's safe. I'm Rebecca Kufuado. I believe and support the Good Life campaign from the Ghana Health Service, and so should you.
Good Life. Live it well. It's an everyday thing.
Nutrition for all. Good life. Live it well.
This is a bank. First Atlantic Bank. Professionally different. Services all day long. First Atlantic Bank. And it feels so cool. I know this is where I belong. Come on, everybody. This is a bank like no other. First Atlantic Bank. Follow me, let's go. Now we're stronger together. We're stronger together. Let's bank. This is a bank like no other. Let's bank. This is a bank like no other. Let's bank. This is a bank like no other. First Atlantic Bank.
Together, First Atlantic Bank, refreshingly different.
Every year, thousands around the world receive impartation from the biggest gathering of pastors, leaders, and business leaders to impact their generation. The Supernatural Empowerment Summit. This year, come and receive an impartation from these great men of God: Bishop Tudor Bismarck, Zimbabwe; Pastor Ayo Orisejafo, Nigeria; Apostle Professor Opoku Onyina, Ghana; Apostle Sam Crunchy Ankra, Ghana; and the host, Bishop Charles Ajinasari, Ghana, under the theme Power for the Last Days, starting Monday evening 27th May to Saturday morning 1st June 2019. Join us for the evening sessions at 5:30 p.m. and morning sessions starting Tuesday 8 o'clock a.m. at the Paris Dome, Jolly Junction, Accra. To register, visit www.stsummit.org. It's the Supernatural Empowerment Summit. Come and receive power for the last days. A great journey lies ahead of us all, but we all have different paths carved out for us. When choosing your path, make sure you choose a partner you can trust, a partner with integrity who will always stand with you and give you the support you need when you need it. No matter who you are and where you are in your journey in life, you are very significant, and so is the path you're on. Consolidated Bank Ghana cherishes financial security as much as you do and shares the same values as you, and that is why we are the right financial partner to stand with you. We are now one of the largest banks in Ghana, and we are ready to partner and work with you. CBG, we stand with you.
It's
about breakups, heartbreak, and how it affects our mental health. It's how we are drawing the curtain on our Mental Health Awareness Month. And our guest today, Petrina Eduse, Paul Ankra, and of course, Inimwa is leading us through some very, very interesting and personal stories indeed. Right, you are doing the same. You're sharing your messages with us. I'm going to read a few in just a moment, but not before we say a big thank you to EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and Telesol 4G, Just a Touch, for bringing us social media messages on the Super Morning Show. Now, are you looking for dependable internet service to meet and suit your needs? Well, Telesol offers the fastest internet experience on 4G in the country. Look, they've got coverage in Accra, Temaho, Kufuridi, Takrady, and Bolgatanga. Now, if you're young, if you're a youngin', Telesol has the Telesol Wave bundles designed to cater for youth lifestyles, starting from as low as 2 cedis and 50 pesos. Telesol also has 4G internet services to meet business, home, and on-the-go needs. This is 4G data not only for your phone and handheld devices, but also extended for use in the office and at home. Can you believe that? Telesol 4G for everyone. Now, Telesol Fiber Broadband is here as well. Telesol has fiber broadband services for homes and offices at affordable rates with varied speeds, unlimited and bundled data options. So listen, do you live in any of the areas below? Well, by below, I mean these areas. Airport, residential area, Laboni, Ridge, Cantonments, Jolu, and of course, many other locations. Then why don't you call Telesol to find out about your area and the service availability? Call Telesol today on 0303 975 342 or 344. or just send an email on enquiry@telesol4g.com. Telesol, just a touch. All right, keep your text messages coming through. I'm going to read a few in just a moment. They're brought to you by Afrodan. Your back must last you a lifetime. And Glyco Critical Illness Plan, GSIP. Glyco, we cushion you for life. All right, so what are you saying to me? This one says, grateful for today's topic, heartbreak and how to deal with it. I'm waiting to learn. I'm going through one right now. This is a guy I really sacrificed for. I could do anything for him. But anytime we had an argument, he is so quick to call things off. He even told me that he wouldn't hurt or lose anything if we were to break up. This is a 3-year-long relationship. Right now, I am scared of starting all over again. Where do I even search from? Would I even get someone to fill that void? I really want to move on, but I can't. Anytime we argue, I call him to make amends just because I don't want to lose him. I just heard this topic on the radio and decided to share my story. Thank you, Sewa. Sewa sent that one through. Thank you so much. This one is from Nanayao. He says, I was with this fine girl, dark-skinned girl. So after 2 years of dating, I caught her having sex with her ex-boyfriend, who I understood was getting married 2 months from then. Wow. Apparently, they were still seeing each other behind my back. She used to tell me the guy still calls. She didn't lie about that. She kind of made me understand that she was avoiding the guy, not knowing it was just a strategy to make me not suspect anything. Oh boy. So basically, I caught her cheating. I forgave her. I tried to work things out. Things were not the same again, but I tried. The killer break was when I found out she was still hanging out with the guy, when I specifically begged her to avoid him, so we worked things out, which she agreed to. So it was really a shocker to find out again. I was a young guy running my own business in Accra. Trust me, all of a sudden being in Accra was even annoying for me, so I took up a job in the Volta region. Until now, I've been in exile. Wow. It goes on. He says, it's affecting my current relationship because I really loved her and many traits about her. I try to see them in my current relationship. It's been a little over 2 years. Again, I now find myself in another region, starting my business all over again. A business I ran for 4 years. I left it. I just felt I needed space, to the point of physical space between us. My old office was close to her house, on top of everything. Wow. Shall I finish this? Yeah, all right. It says, the job offer that came was also too juicy. A furnished apartment, free medical, good pay, car, allowances, etc. So I just jumped on the offer and left my business. Now I know running my business would have been better after a year and some months working for someone else. I learned a lot in exile, so it's cool. But I still wish I had her, or someone like her, without the cheating attitude. Heartbreaks are a killer disease. They've killed people, killed dreams, killed vim. Good morning, Kojo and your team. Even though some breakups seem to be suicidal, there is no way you should be enemies because friendship is forever. That's Ajuman Joseph in Community 9, Tema. Wow, 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 wow. My goodness, my goodness. Thank you for sharing. And by the way, very quickly, our friends at Afrodan want to remind you that the average person will sit about 75,000 hours in their working life, which is really not how we were designed to be as humans. We were designed to be upright, walking, running, and on the move. So if you sit and stand still for extended periods of time, it's bound to affect your health. So if you want to protect yourself, go to Afrodan. They're offering you today the most comfortable chair in the world. It's the Nightingale Extreme Comfort Chair with over 10 thoughtfully engineered features, especially customized for your health and comfort. Working has never been this good. So go along to Afrodan on the first floor of the Swansea Shopping Arcade and feel this chair for yourself. You will be amazed. Call 0302 663 085 to learn more. Now, have you ever had a loved one suffer as a result of cancer, kidney failure, or heart disease? The emotional and financial stress is quite traumatic. Like heartbreak. The Glyco Critical Illness Plan, GSIP, has been designed to alleviate some of the financial burdens critical illness poses on loved ones and family. So don't wait until it's too late. Sign on to the Glyco Critical Illness Plan, GSIP, for financial support when diagnosed with critical illness like cancer, stroke, kidney failures, among others. Speak to Glyco Life today for your GSIP policy on 020-2222-113 or dial star Glyco on your Star phone app. Available on Android and iOS. Glyco Life, we cushion you for life. Right. Okay, so let's get back into this conversation. We're learning about heartbreak. We're learning about how it affects our psyche. And I want us to start focusing on, the solutions, recovery. So just very quickly before we get to the solutions, Petrina was telling us about how the pain that comes with heartbreak is pretty much the same as physical pain, right?
Yes, it can be experienced on that level. Basically, what happens is that for some people, Anima shared that sometimes she would actually throw up. That is a physiological response. That's the connection between mental and physical. So you can actually think a physical symptom into being.
Right.
And it usually doesn't help matters when you are out of that experience, like I said before, and then you keep reliving it in your head. You keep saying things to yourself like, what does she have that I don't have? What does he have that I don't have? And you keep punishing yourself. Like you said, you spend days and nights unable to eat properly, sleep, function. It affects your social life, your professional life. You get a query from work. You're stressed out about that. You're dealing with your breakup. So these breakups can affect your life on a huge level.
Wow. Now we'll all share our own coping mechanisms and tips in a bit, but I want to stay with you for a bit, Petrina, while we get into the issue of how to properly, deal with heartbreak. And let me just read somebody's suggestion of how to deal with heartbreak. And this is Akofa. She says, "My mother-in-law advised me to pretend he is dead, and it helped in my recovery." That's hardcore. Is that a valid tip from
by any means necessary until she runs into him with someone else?
Exactly. And then, it's a miracle.
But Paul said something very interesting about you need to know what you are feeling and not what others are feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
So in counseling and psychotherapy, one of the things that we do is when you're with a client, you try to isolate their voice from others.
Right.
Most of the time, we do things, we think things, we feel things, not because that's who we are genuinely, but it's what we are hearing from other people. Hey, no, why? You're kidding me. He didn't call you back. Send him a message and say this. What did she do? She didn't show up, So people are telling us to act a certain way, feel a certain way. And sometimes in a breakup, that can be difficult because you don't even know how you feel about it. Sometimes deep down, if you sit back, you actually are okay because you know that this was a dysfunctional situation, so I'm okay with it. But then advice from someone speaking in your ear can say, after all you've done, after all the money you spent, no, you need to make them suffer. And sometimes clients don't know how to do that, and that's what we provide for them in the counseling relationship.
Right.
But at the heart of the pain that people experience is the fact that we don't know how to be happy on our own. We don't know what it means to be fulfilled on our own. So it is, he makes me happy, she makes me happy. So without them, I can't be happy.
Right.
And like I said, that's what we do in counseling. It's helping the person realize that they were someone before they met this person. Whatever voids have been created, how do they fill it for themselves? Because when that doesn't exist, you keep looking for people to fill that void.
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought for a moment. We'll continue this in just a second because it's time now for the Joy Business Minute. And when we come back, Petrina continues and also perhaps answers the question about whether breakup sex helps.
Good morning, welcome to the Joy Business Minute. My name is Daryl. Hello. The second edition of the Joy Business Health and Wellness Trade Show has officially opened with industry players in the health sector exchanging ideas on improving access to quality health care in the country. Several experts are offering services and products at competitive discounted prices. Day 2 of the Joy Business Health and Wellness Trade Show promises to be even more exciting. The topic is redefining the frontiers of fertility through assisted reproduction, a brighter outlook for childless couples. In other news, Group Chief Executive and Managing Director of Well, Patrick Okoli, is today taking his leave leading to his retirement from the institution. He is expected to engage staff this morning ahead of his exit. And so far, 24 out of 54 African countries have signed and ratified the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which came into force yesterday. The agreement is expected to open up Africa's market space for all its member states to trade duty-free and quota-free.
Morning
Show.
You're welcome back. It's 9 o'clock, and that was your Joy Business Minute. So we're talking about heartbreak. Our guests, Petrina, Paul, and Inimwa, helping us understand how it all works and how it affects your mind. So we're looking at solutions now. How do you properly deal with a breakup? And you were developing a very important point that you need to remember that you were a person before you entered that relationship.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying, that people who seek professional help, professional counseling, those are some of the things that we try to point them towards. Usually when you go to friends and family for advice, they ask questions like, what did he do and what did he say and what... But in the counseling setting, we're focusing on your reaction, your responses. What are the voids that were created as a result of the breakup? How can you fill them before you bring someone else into your situation?
Right.
And not that I need someone to tell me how beautiful I look every day. If you can't get to the point where you can appreciate who you are, you'll always be looking for people to do that for you. And then when they disappoint you, this void is created. So
sometimes, Kojo, it's also a social cultural thing because especially here in Ghana and Africa, we're socialized to think that we are not enough on our own.
Yes.
And so whenever a relationship fails, you feel like a failure, not only in the relationship but in the eyes of the people around you.
Absolutely.
Because so much of your definition, the definition of who you are is who you're with. With how many years you've been able to clock, how many children. We measure our value. It's a metric for value for us, those kinds of things. And we can't talk enough about self-love, and it's also something we don't teach. I'm surprised it's not taught in schools. I didn't learn about self-love until maybe 5-6 years ago, when I was entering my 30s, and suddenly this concept came that actually I'm responsible for my joy, my happiness, loving myself, taking care of myself. And for me, in my marriage, one of the fundamental things that went wrong for me is that I didn't know who I was on my own. I didn't know how to love myself. When you don't know how to love yourself, you expect things from the other person that they can't give you. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is knowing what to expect from whom. So I know that when I'm hurting and when I feel things that I can't articulate, I know to go to God. I know that when I want someone to talk to on an intellectual level, I want a hug, I know to go to my partner. And I know that there are moments when I need to sit with myself and feel what I am feeling and process that. A lot of us haven't learned to do that, and breakups magnify that. Because when you break up with someone, all of your insecurities are laid bare. All of the holes in your life, all of the flaws, they are laid bare. And so if you haven't learned how to love yourself and accept yourself, then it becomes harder to get over that, because somebody has just validated all the evil things you think about yourself in the process of them rejecting you or walking away from you.
Right.
Let me, sorry, do you mind?
Sure,
to
go ahead.
connect to something that you said. I haven't shared any of my personal experiences, so let me just share something quickly. Before I met my husband, I was in a relationship some years prior, and I ended that relationship. Sometimes when we share these topics, it's like the person who was broken up with is the one who goes through the pain. But I had to end it, and it was difficult. It was painful. And the reason why I ended that relationship was it had gotten to a point where I was asking myself, am I not good enough? What's wrong with me? I was fortunate enough, like you're saying, to discover that self-love. I was on that path. And then I was sitting down one day, and it's, if all I am and all I'm striving to be is not enough for this person, I have to accept that that's what it is. I'm not enough for this person. Someone else will find me enough. For now, I am enough for me. So yes, I ended the relationship. I cried. I felt like I'd lost my best friend because we used to share everything information-wise. He supported me through very difficult emotional times in my life. So yes, I went through the ups and the downs and the bargaining, even though I'm the one who ended it. But what helped me walk away from it was realizing that I'm enough as I am. And if that person doesn't realize it...
Yeah, because if I can come in, I mean, there's always the saying that if you can't love yourself, it's very difficult for you to love someone, honestly. You have to be in touch with yourself.
Or for someone to love you.
Or for someone to love you. Because when you're in love with you get to understand who you are, your value system, the things you do, the things you won't do. And then that you will portray and show in the relationship, which hopefully somebody will recognize and place a value on it. And then you both move forward. So it's very important to know yourself before you get into a relationship.
So Enimwa talks about how you could feel like a failure sometimes because we've all been socialized to think that you're not supposed to be alone.
Yeah,
did you go through that?
Yeah, and that's what marriage teaches you. I mean, you take those vows that it's till death do you part. So it's supposed to be a lifetime commitment. But the reality of life is sometimes things don't work out the way you hope for.
Yeah.
Kojo, I know you're about to announce a phone line, so when you finish that, just let me say something.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry. So, listen, it's time to hear from you. All right, this conversation is for you. So call us 0302-216-541, 0244-340-437. Call us on either of those. We want to hear about your worst breakup and how did you recover, or have you recovered? Talk to us. What was your worst breakup, and have you recovered? If you have, how did you? Anymore.
Okay, so I want to talk about religion for a second, and maybe Bile will understand. I think I'm a Christian, and the hardest part of my divorce was finding how to fit in to the Christian community, with the label of a divorced woman, and I carried that with me for so long because I felt like, okay, suddenly I wasn't good enough, I wasn't holy enough, and they'll hit you with the scripture that God hates divorce because of the violence that it puts on your garments, and so I walked around feeling like this violently destroyed person until we had Elder Kevin Amos Annan come on the show. He spoke and he said, so I'm just saying this for anyone who's listening out there. He said that the reason why God hates divorce is not because of what people think it does to you, but what it actually does to you. He hates it for the pain that it puts you through. And that perspective healed me on this show about 3 months ago. It was the final cloak of healing. So if you're Christian and you're divorced, you're not desolate, you're not rejected, you're not abandoned. And for those who throw those labels around, I mean, come on, people, it's insensitive.
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry. We have to take a call. We don't want to leave them hanging for too long. Robert is calling us from East Legon. Robert, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you, Robert. It's great to hear from you. But I wonder, what's your worst breakup?
It's a life experience that I've never experienced. I'm still healing, which is very hard for me now. I met this lady. We all grew up together, and I've been with her. It was a distance relationship. So she do visit me often, and I do visit her. And not knowing that she was cheating on me, I never knew that she was cheating. People told me, and I always fight for her because I trusted her to the extent that even I defended her in front of my parents. My uncle told me, hey, watch this lady carefully because the way she comes here and go, if something is happening, you wouldn't know. And I said, no, this lady will never do that to me.
Wow.
So we plan to get married this year when I graduate from school. And actually, there was a pregnancy. I don't want to go into details, but there was a pregnancy, and I got to know that I was the one who was responsible for the pregnancy.
Oh.
She didn't tell me that until we went to the hospital for checkup and everything, and I got to know I wasn't the one.
Gosh, I can imagine how that felt. And I can see that you're still working through some of these issues.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. But keep listening, okay? Hopefully there might be something you hear that will also be healing for you, just like Inimwa heard something a few months ago and really helped. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that very personal story. Richard Opoku is in Kumasi. Richard, good morning, Ed.
Good morning.
I'm glad you called. What's on your mind?
Okay, good morning to Peace and Love Hospital staff here in Kumasi and then in Accra. You see, I actually don't have a story to tell because I've instilled in me a principle that helped me to deal with heartbreak. And that is, you shouldn't have to convince anybody to love you. If somebody can walk away from your life, let them walk away. If they can walk, let them go. If they leave, it means they are not attached to your future. Sometimes God breaks your heart to save your soul. notwithstanding, there's a way to deal with heartbreak from my own perspective. There's nothing wrong with crying and being sad. The only danger is when you let those feelings linger too long. If you continue to dwell on your sadness, you are just feeling sorry for yourself. Good morning.
Ah, wow, Richard, you do all. Wow, that's great advice. Thank you. Chidiak is in South Labadi. Hey, Chidiak, how are you doing, man?
Fine, Kojo.
It's been such a long time. Great to hear from you.
Same. To me, bitterness is what we get out of these things, heartbreaking. But the disadvantage is that you carry this bitterness along with you, and any new person that will take you out of this pain, you vent that bitterness on that person, and you don't get any new thing in your life. So the best solution is that when such a situation happens, take that bitterness out of you and move on. Because since there's success, there can equally be a failure. Thank you.
Nice one, Chidiak. Thank you so much. Back to Kumasi now. Here's Kofi. Good morning, Kofi.
Yeah, good morning, Kojo. How are you?
I'm very well. It's great to hear from you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, this is Kofi Bajumba from Kumasi. And yeah, broken heart is something that should not be happening to anybody.
Have you experienced it?
Oh, I experienced it too. I experienced it. There was this woman I loved so much, very, very much. In fact, if I don't have a penny, this woman will spend on me. And all of a sudden, she came and told me that I should go and perform the marriage rite, else the father wanted to give her to a certain man. At that time, I was koboless. How will I go and perform whatever rite? And because of that, my lover was taken away from me. Oh.
She married someone else?
She married someone else. Oh, that very time, this song of Dadulumba had just come up. Sikasem Tinobi Adimedofo. I played this song over and over, and I could not eat for almost a year.
My goodness.
It's not good. Then if it hasn't happened to you, when we are talking about it, you might think we are joking. But when it happens to you, then you know that we are saying yasne. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you too. Wow. In addition to all his achievements, Lumba has also caused a year of fasting in Kumasi. Kweku is in Sakumono. Kweku, good morning.
Hello.
Hi, Kweku. Good morning. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Mr. Yankson. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Kweku, tell me, what's your worst heartbreak?
Oh, it happened some 21 years ago. But I still remember it because it was in school, a young boy in the university, and the breakup was just a day before starting exam.
Wow.
Yes, and it wasn't even for anything. The painful aspect is that it was for the fact that I was a very loud person in school. I'm almost everywhere. It wasn't even the fact that I went to see another woman. I was dating another woman. It was just the fact that my lady was tired of me chewing jama, doing flute, doing all the things a young boy would want to do in the university. So she asked that we broke up. And this was before exam.
Wow.
But I think I got what got me through it was also the exam period. I had to find a way to focus on my books and then read and learn to be able to pass my exam, because it was just about getting into final year. And I think one of your people in the studio said something about happiness and self-happiness, trying to create your own joy, your own happiness and all, because when you give it to someone and the person decides to go away, that's when you get this kind of broken heart. So from that period, I've learned how to deal with these things. It's not like I've not fallen in love again. I'm married, happily married and all with kids now. It's not that I've not fallen in love again, but I've found a way to manage these things in a way that over the period, I've been through relationships and there have been breakups, but it hasn't hit me that much. That's the very first time when I was that young and didn't even know what to go through. And you know the funny thing, that exam was my best result in university.
Well, silver lining, right? Every cloud. All right, thank you so much for that. And let's take one more call. Let's go to Tema. Here's George. Good morning, George.
Good morning. How are you, Kojo?
I'm very well, George.
You are welcome.
Thank you very much. Now, tell me, what's on your mind?
Man, that's a powerful topic you are talking about this morning. And it is real. It's a terrible experience when you go through it. If you never experience it, you don't know. Ask one man first, another man talk about. Like somebody is hungry, and you are full, and the person is talking about, oh, I'm hungry, and you tell you, and you don't know how the person feels. So it is a terrible experience. What I personally realize is that where there is a will, there is a will.
Where there's a will, there's a way. I like that.
Where there is no will,
God makes a way. Thank you so much, George. I appreciate that ever so much. All right, now let's read a couple more messages and then we can wrap up. This one says, Kojo, my boyfriend never opened up and he never made time for me until he wants to have sex and a whole lot. He always cancels at the last minute when we plan to go out. I gave him a month's space to think things through if he still wants a relationship. And 2 weeks into the space, he posted a picture of his ex with the caption, "My Aigbetofe." I ended the relationship like 6 months ago and I still can't get over him. I've tried avoiding him and I thought I'd gotten over him until I saw him after work yesterday. And I just realized I still love him. I don't know what to do. And that's from Nala. We'll get you some advice from Petrina in a moment. But here's another message. Hello, Kojo. I was actually relieved after our breakup. I felt liberated and free. It was an on and off relationship for 2 years. Ikuya writes that from airport, and I guess I know what she means. Sometimes that ambiguity is torture, and when you break free of it, you feel free. Now, this is interesting. McCosby sends this one through. He says, I'm really thinking about the ladies I broke up with now. I feel so bad, but I pray they find the strength to love again. Sometimes our rise begins from a fall. It is tough, but it is well. McCosby, you spoiled there. All right, here's one more. This one is to you, Inimwa. It says, Inimwa, this divorce label doesn't work for most of us now. The true Christian society doesn't label anyone. Our sanity is paramount. A certain popular bishop with millions of followers in Accra divorced and didn't lose a follower, I'm sure. Thanks, and that's Nana writing from Spintex Road. All right, listen, I've got to thank you all, but quickly, some advice for the young lady who saw her ex yesterday and can't get over it. Any two sentences to advise her?
Wow. Okay, it's normal. She shouldn't feel bad that she saw him and she still loves him. Real love doesn't just die. So she needs to accept that. But then moving forward, she also needs to be honest with herself about the fact that the relationship is over. He has made another choice. Now she needs to work on herself, becoming healthy, becoming happy. If she's religious in any way, becoming strong in her faith, and then being the type of woman that God wants her to be, if that's what she believes in. Right. But making sure she's self-sufficient before she looks for anything else.
That's useful. Petrina, Bilay, Nimwa, thank you all so much for the time you've spent on this topic. And listen, if you've been paying attention and you're going through anything like this, it doesn't matter what anyone else says to you. We love you. We're always here. Tune in every morning and we'll be here. We'll never let you down. More coming on the Super Morning Show right after these.
Come to a serene atmosphere.